Yet. And hello, everyone. So I'm One Ring, as you probably know, because this is my channel. Go ahead and shill yourself, Jen.
Oh, I think everyone in your group knows me.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jay from Jen's Little Corner. I've got a new video coming out tomorrow, which apparently I'm going to have to get up stupidly early in the morning for, all thanks to Critical Cripple. So thank you very much, Critical Cripple. I talk crap on Twitter. Follow me on there to find out when I'm doing new stuff, and sub to me on YouTube. Yep, that'll do.
And so today we're tossing a stream for The Witcher.
Love it.
Yeah, so I just recently finished watching The Witcher, and I figured, since I'm kind of making my channel about me being a kind of a culture and media guy, I figured, might as well do like a kind of review sort of discussion on the themes and such, at least in the Netflix series. Jen, general thoughts?
My general thoughts, I really enjoyed it. My experience with The Witcher previously was I'd seen friends playing the game, though I hadn't played it myself, and I've got one friend who's read the books, and he mentioned it, and he was trying to persuade me to actually read them, but most of my reading tends to be scientific papers and journals, so
Yeah.
And I'm really selective about the fiction I like to read, so I haven't actually read it, although after seeing the series I'm kind of wishing I had, because I usually prefer to read books before I see shows, because I find that if you've read the book first, you've got a proper image for how you've got your own image then for how things should be, and you can interpolate the other context into a show or a movie from that. Whereas if you watch the show first, the show tends to spoil the books, I find. You can be disappointed in the TV show, but the TV show will not ruin the book. But I've had shows ruin books from the other way around. So, yeah, I'm in two minds now. I've sort of ended up the same way with Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed watching the series up until the last series. Now I'm like, I don't think I could read the books because I know the storyline is quite different between them, and I'm going to be disappointed by it. And if it doesn't end well in the books as well, then I'm going to be even more disappointed. So,
well, I mean, that's assuming George R.R. Martin actually finishes
the books. Yeah, he may not now. He may just go on to make shitloads of money from making TV shows, and nobody ever gets the books finished. It'll be left to somebody after he's dead to write a finishing off book based off what the TV series was, in which case it'll be an exorbitant disappointment. See, I've got issues with other things like this, like HBO are doing a Wheel of Time series.
I thought that was
sorry,
also Netflix. That's doing.
No, it's Amazon. Sorry, doing a Wheel of Time. It's Amazon actually.
I'm actually kind of leery about that because I'm having trouble seeing how that can be done live action.
Yeah, depends how much money you throw into it. You can do anything live action, although technically it's not really live action anymore.
No, I mean, well, my point is that it's such a long series, book-wise.
It takes a long time to get through it all, yes.
Yeah, and
it'll be, they will cut stuff out of it.
Yeah, and there's not.
I haven't read all the series, and I'm like, I read all the books. So if it comes out as a series, I'm going to have all these bits. I don't want to spend all my time reading because I mean I've got back into playing Path of Exile recently, and that's. Between that and hurting my back, it screwed up me making content, and I don't like that because I enjoy making content. So I've had to pull back on actually playing.
As for Wheel of Time, my view is as to why you can't really do a proper live action series is to get everything in there, because everything in Wheel of Time ties to something else and has an actual, actually affects the plot.
Yeah.
So to do a proper job, it seems to me like people would start aging out of their roles by the time you get
By the time you got there.
yeah. Which isn't really as much of a problem with animation.
Yeah, it may be all right if you're dealing with adults, because I mean, even if you age a bit, even if it takes 10, even if it took them 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to do the whole lot, to do as much of it as they're going to do, because they'll cut it out, right?
Yeah.
Even if it takes that long, the adults won't be too bad.
Yeah, if you go with the current model of like a book per season, it'll take 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Hey, Math Pig.
Hi, Math Pig. Oh, I was going to send Math Pig a link.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. Sorry, Math Pig.
But personally, I also really enjoyed the Witcher series. I found the characters very arched, but I found that they were handled like they're very much archetypes, but it was handled in a very in a very good way. And there were things that subverted those archetypes a bit. There were very interesting themes at play. And it definitely, like, watching The Witcher on Netflix definitely made me want to read the books. And
I'm feeling that way too, but I'm also because like I said, Steve, my friend, who people have met because he's been in the background when I've been in streams, when I've been staying with him, has read some of the books, and he actually feels the TV series is actually close enough that it's not going to mess you up going backwards and forwards. I know that there are people who are going to disagree with that because they hate the way certain characters are portrayed, but I think you're always going to do that when you have an interpretation done to a different medium.
Yeah.
I mean, even somebody as talented as Douglas Adams was still made changes between mediums and did it deliberately to allow for the fact that people would want something different out of each medium and would have to accept that there were going to have to be changes to characters for different mediums. So I don't have a huge problem with that as long as it's not done to the expense of story, which has been done with some things. I mean, as much as as much as a person, J.K. Rowling annoys me now. Yeah. I can't argue that her books aren't good. I can't say she's well. No, Harry Potter books are good. The rest of her books are actually kind of shit.
Yeah,
she's made one good series.
Yeah, and for example, the sci-fi Dresden Files TV series is like only watchable if you don't think of it as the Dresden Files. You're like, no, this is...
if you take it on as a separate entity or on its own, it's brilliant. I loved the series. And I know people who've read Terry Goodkind's why can't it, what was it? Wizard's First Rule.
Haven't heard of that.
Oh, okay. Because that was made into a TV series, and I honestly can't remember what the TV series was called. It was the name of the first book, but it wasn't Wizard's First Rule. It was a name of his character, and the main character, and I can't remember what it was called. He had a title, and The Seeker. That's it. There was a TV series called The Seeker, and the the part of the problem was the first 3 or 4 books of Terry Goodkind series are absolutely brilliant, and then he forgot where all these characters were because he got and he screwed it up. And then he's like, it's going to take me ages to fix this, and it's sort of sat on the back burner and never got anywhere ever since. So when they made the TV series, they modified it with his blessing. They modified the story into a sequential thing so they could have a weekly episode that was self-contained, but loosely following the original story. The TV series is really good as long as you don't try to think it's a direct thing of the books. It's an interpretation of the books only.
Or
that it works really well, but
or the Jumper movie. You know, that's a good movie, but it's best taken as its own thing and not as an.
Oh, I love it though. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love it.
Yeah, I love the movie, but it's best if it's taken as its own thing and not as an adaptation.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I wouldn't care, actually, even if in the cinema universe that was used as the origin story for the Joker, because it is such a good story.
Oh, no, I said Jumper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, the Jumper.
The Jumper. Okay, yeah.
Jumper, the guy who teleports around.
Yeah. It's not called the Jumper, is it? It's
called Jumper. It's just called Jumper.
I don't think it was in Australia. I think we had a different name for it. So when that happens, like you had Aeroplane, and in Australia it was called Flying High.
But yeah, the book it's based on is actually a lot darker. And
what's the book called?
I think it's also called Jumper.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember if it's the same thing. But Christian Haydenson, that movie you're talking about, yeah. I have not read the book, but the movie was awesome. Actually, I actually think he was better in that than he was in the prequels.
Yeah. But also, is
anybody waiting to join? Are you actually paying attention?
Yeah, there's no one waiting to join.
Oh, you're all horrible. Come and join us.
Yeah.
We're already off track, so come on join us.
But, and yes, there will be, well, we're gonna try and keep the spoilers as minor as possible, but there will be spoilers.
Yeah, of course there will. I mean, come on, it's been out for nearly a month now.
Yeah.
People should at least be a fair way in. We're not gonna, well, the story hasn't got to the end of it anyway, so
yeah.
What do you think of the portrayal of the characters in general?
Okay, that actually, I was going to go into the characters as well.
What about Geralt to start with?
For it, I
like his Geralt better.
The books, like having not read the books, going strictly off the Netflix, Netflix series, because I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I only just kind of saw people playing it. Henry Cavill makes a much better Geralt than he did as Superman.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I hope he gives up on Superman. They recast Superman, and we just keep him in The Witcher.
Yeah.
I don't like the Superman. Aside from the casting of why can't I remember his name as Aquaman, I don't like any of the castings in DC.
I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. That's
what I said. Aside from Jason Momoa, I don't like.
Shazam was pretty well cast, and so is Wonder Woman.
Okay, no. I meant I actually only meant from the characters who have currently been shoved into.
So you don't like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman?
She's all right. I could tolerate her staying in there, but I don't necessarily like the way they've done her playing Wonder Woman. I think is great. Yeah. The way they've outlined the character doesn't feel quite right to the character, but I'm more into Marvel than I am into DC, unfortunately. So,
well, and the thing is, with comic books in general, and with DC in particular, because it's been as a continuous thing since comic books practically began.
Yeah,
there are so many there are so many different interpretations of those characters. For DC in particular. But anyways, back on to characters in The Witcher. Who would you say is your favorite?
Oh, the characters in The Witcher. I love Yennefer.
Yeah.
I just love it. She is just so odd.
Yeah.
She is egotistical, but subtly caring, which is such a weird mix of character traits.
I'd have to say that my favorite character is probably Jacqueline.
Oh, yep.
You know, partially because I really like the archetype of like the comedic fuck up. and he plays that part so well.
He does. I was a little disappointed when he left.
Yeah, and I also love the fact that he is the bardiest bard to ever bard.
His whole characterization totally reminds me of Monty Python's Holy Grail. and then due to a severe famine, we ate Robin's minstrels, and there was much rejoicing.
Yay!
Brave, Sir Robin. It's just so much reminds me of that.
Yeah. But now I liked the character of Yennefer.
Yennefer. That's what I meant, Yennefer. Yeah. I said Yennefer, didn't I?
Yeah, you said Yennefer.
Yeah, sorry. I told you I'm dreadful with the character names.
Though
I love Yennefer.
Though I did find a small bit of her plotline a bit problematic.
Which
way it was written?
Sorry?
I found a small bit of her. I found a bit of her plotline mid-season a bit problematic, at least the way it was written and portrayed.
Yeah,
it's more of a probably a script issue than anything else.
Yeah. If we're talking about the way the scripts are done, the thing I found most the hardest thing about the way it was done is all the jumps in time.
Oh yeah,
because there's no real warning when they're happening. Sometimes it's hard to tell what the actual sequence of things are. So much so that when we get, I can't say this bit because it is really spoilery. When we near to the climatic stuff in the last episode, I was like, hang on, how did this happen when the other bits happened? And oh my god, what order is all this shit in?
I didn't catch on that it was non-linear until like halfway through the season, and then I'm like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense now.
And I was the same, and even at the end I'm still like, oh crap, which way around did all this stuff happen? Because we'd just gone off and done all the thing up in the mountains. And then all of a sudden we're back here, and the bard appears and disappears, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. That to me is the worst part of the show, trying to keep track of the non-linear timeline.
It seems to me that the three main plot lines, they start at different places and then they just kind of converge.
It really does feel like that.
So it's like it is linear, but each of the plot lines are linear, but as a whole, the show is not.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
And I think that mirrors in some ways how the cutscenes work in the game. Because some of the cutscenes are showing you things that happened in the past, and some of them are about the things that have happened now. So they've tried to follow a linear progression that's there within the games. Because I believe the series follows the games closer than it follows the books.
Oh.
Which is fine because they're all very close anyway. It's really, really kind of weird.
But so I'm gonna go ahead and use Yennefer as a jumping point into the next kind of into talking about themes, because that's part of the problem I had with her plot line. One of one of one of the themes, especially in the middle, is explored is parenthood and particularly motherhood.
Yeah.
Because there's that sequence in the episode with the Skriga or the Striga. I apologize to my wife for my terrible mashing of Polish words. But anyway, where you have her, where you have Yennefer's rebirth as Geralt is fighting the Striga, and it's juxtaposed very nicely. And but here's my problem with that bit of Yennefer's plotline in the next couple episodes, is it very much goes into the you'll regret not being a mother trope. Yeah. That you kind of see from right-wing people, particularly fundamentalist Christians, and that's what I kind of saw as problematic. And I'd kind of like to get your opinion on that.
I don't get the importance of that. She knew exactly what she was giving up in the beginning.
Yeah.
She knew exactly where she was going with that, and yet she spends so much time in the first series trying to get around what she's given up.
Yeah, and that's what I found problematic.
Of course, the easiest way for her to get around it would be to go and find a kid to adopt.
Yeah.
She could find an orphan child and adopt them and train them to be a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Where is there an issue in this?
Or,
they were making an issue out of nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I found problematic is, she's a strong, relatable character. I'd place her in the archetype of something of the femme fatale.
Yeah. Well, definitely. She's supposed to be after all the stuff at the beginning.
And thank you for the correction, Danger Hissy.
After all the corrections that she's had by the hands of what's his name? Tess. I can't remember what his name is. Let me find it.
She's a very driven, very ambitious character.
Oh, she is.
And I really, really like that. And she has a very sympathetic backstory.
Oh, she does. I agree.
A lot of trauma that she has to work through. Yeah. And then they kind of do that stupid "you'll regret it" reversal for those couple of episodes,
which really make no sense at all. There are lots of people who are born without the ability to have kids. She chose her beauty to further her career, which isn't an unusual thing for women to do, to choose something to further their career with. And often it's a choice of not having a family or having a family later, or going for adoption instead of having childbirth because you don't want the risks of childbirth when you're a bit older, etc. So there's all these sort of choices that women make all the time. And there's not necessarily regret. If you have the personality where you can give that up to start off with, your chances of regret are quite low.
Yeah.
And her drive, obviously, to be a parent wasn't there when she was younger. So why would it may change? She's very long-lived. It may change later. But even then, there are risks for all those long-lived sorcerers of having births later anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't see where this would have ultimately been a problem for her. It would make more sense for her to go, all right, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to find an orphan child who's magical at some point and rear them as my own. She obviously would have thought about this stuff to start off with and not been.
And that's why I found that that particular stretch of her plot line very problematic.
Oh, it is. It's you can certainly tell that a man who feels that women should have kids wrote it.
Yeah.
I love most of his writing style, but he doesn't really understand female psyche very well.
Yeah, though it does, like, there is one way I can say that it does seem somewhat consistent with her character, because it does, because there is a definite drive for acceptance, because that seems to be her actual goal throughout the whole thing.
Or to be accepted, yes.
She's going after the power is so she
which is why she had the procedure in the first place.
Yeah. And yeah, there is that, conversation in the carriage with the king's wife before the assassin shows up. But that's not, I didn't really find that strong enough to make someone go completely baby nuts.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So a kid dies who she's supposed to be protecting against one of the greatest assassins on this world. You know, she did a damn good job trying to protect them. And
so technically, it seemed like it was ultimately kind of her fault that the baby died.
Yeah, sort of.
It looked to me like it in like the baby died from like drowning.
Yeah, but I mean, she wasn't. I don't think at that point she was so tired she wasn't completely in control of where she was portaling to. So,
well, also I think it was, if you don't know where you're going, the people trying to follow you
won't
have a tougher time trying to find you.
I mess up, like messing that up is not the same as deliberately killing the child.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she'd have some guilt, but
yeah.
I don't know that it would have been enough guilt to drive her to want to have kids. In fact,
especially after her speech about how it's a better thing that the baby died, because it would have just been a vessel to be filled if it had grown up.
Yeah, and I mean, her experience of that child dying could just as easily, perhaps even more so, turn to the other way. Oh, the grief of having a child die or losing out to something where this is such a risk in the life that I lead. Not having children is probably a good thing for me. And
sometimes the daisy's only purpose is to die.
Yeah. It's a plot point that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I think it was kind of important to the way that he wanted to tie Yennefer and
Geralt.
Geralt. Yeah, it's Geralt. It is too. Together, because they were tied together by the fact that they were both infertile, and
Geralt did have a child surprise.
Yes.
And I'm gonna talk about Destiny and the Law of Surprise later, because I'm gonna jump into another theme that I really, really liked. The way it explored, the series explored, is how it explored superstition.
Oh yeah.
Because when we first see Jacobin, and he's singing that song about all those monsters, and then he goes to Geralt and he's like, "So, what'd you think of my song? Just tell me in 3 words." "They don't exist."
Yeah.
What don't exist? The monsters in your song. Because from what I've read, mostly the tropes in fantasy when it comes to superstition are, it's all true. It all turns out to be true. You never have, in a fantasy setting, you never have people who are just superstitious, who just believe things that, believe that things exist that don't exist.
Yeah.
Believe that, you'll see, skeptics that are always proven wrong. And it does do that in the Dragon Hunter episode a little bit, but that was done rather well.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and
Geralt, it tends to not believe in things he hasn't experienced or learnt from about firsthand. So it's like, people make up too much shit, and I only know what's actually real. So if it's outside of his field of expertise, he's like, well, it may not be true. He's quite a skeptic. For somebody who does what he does, he's quite skeptical of everything.
Which is what I really kind of like about him.
Yeah.
And about how the themes of superstition are explored, specifically revolving around Geralt.
Yeah. Now, if we're going to talk about things that don't make sense to character, the wedding. And Geralt's asking for first sight at the end of it.
Oh.
Now, given what he's just been through, what he saw had happened to somebody else, why the freaking hell would he ask for that?
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all. You know, it would make more sense for him, even though he's not into money, to go, give me 100, give me 10 shillings. That's fine. I'm going to get out of here. Yeah. It would make more, or give my bard what he wants.
Yeah.
That would have been the sort of thing he would have done. Not first sight. What do they call it?
Yeah, not the law of surprise.
Or a surprise, that's it. Yeah. I was like, no, given what you've just seen, why the hell would you ask for that? As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, that's just stupid. That's just rehashing something that you've just talked about to extend plot. Yeah.
Well, it seemed like in his, from his point of view that, he doesn't want anything. So and it seemed like that to Geralt that the knight didn't really have anything. It probably would end up being, something inconsequential.
Yeah, but you still didn't take the risk. I mean, he's seen what happens with that. Okay, it worked out for them, but it's not the thing you go and ask for, is it? It's just, I don't get it. It just makes no sense. And I mean, even the Queen picked it up. Why would you ask for that?
Well, actually, I think the Queen might have. I think the Queen might have known that. I think Calanthe might have known that her daughter was pregnant.
Yes, but even so, it's the whole point of, come on.
Because why else would you rush a wedding like that?
Well, that's true.
Why?
Well, I mean, Geralt is more intelligent than that. He comes across as one of the most intelligent characters, aside from maybe Yennefer and a few of the other sorcerers, in the whole story. And he does something so stupid.
Yeah.
And it makes absolutely no sense. It's just
though I could just as easily write it off as he's had a long fucking night and he's just over this and he's not thinking.
Yeah. Or he could have just been pissed off because after he goes, I don't need anything. No, you have to have something or I'll always be in your debt. Okay, fine, here you go.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
And thinking that the first thing he'd see would be his sword or something like that. But even there, I feel it's like it was just used as a plot device to drive the story. Though
actually, that was one of my favorite episodes.
I love that episode too. I just didn't like that bit.
I just loved the way that it played with all the fairy tale tropes.
Yeah, I mean he could have done a similar thing by if the knight had just said, what can I give you for what you've done for me? And Geralt goes, no, I don't need anything. And then he goes, my first child, you will be its godfather. That's it. It's dealt with. Yeah. It is actually, the plot is drawn on. You don't need any of this first sight thing. Yeah. And Geralt is strong enough that he would believe in something like that. So when he thought there was a risk to his godchild and he'd heard about stuff, he would have come back anyway. Yeah. He was honorable. He would have done that. But by doing it the way they did, it fits in with his whole plot line of them not being able to have kids, but there needs to be kids. And it's a weird ass underlying plot.
Well, no, it's more of a juxtaposition because Yennefer didn't have a kid but wanted one, and Geralt had a kid, but that he didn't want because he didn't want, her in his life.
Yeah.
Because he lives a very dangerous, very rough life. And that's not the kind of life that you want to bring a kid into. I completely see why he wouldn't want to do that unless his hand was forced by destiny, which is another, running.
Yeah, the whole show is about you cannot deny destiny. You can't fight against it. These things are there's a whole concept of things are preordained within the universe.
Yeah. So heck, you could possibly argue that Geralt was destined to ask for the child surprise, to ask for the law of surprise.
Right. Yeah. And that, what does that say about predestination for the? I mean, obviously in a story there's predestination because the author knows where they're going to go, but in their world everything's about predestination.
Well, and the thing is, it's very much drawing from folk tales and mythology, and in stories like that, it's very much more lean towards predestination. Like, for instance, Calanthe is very much a character from a Greek tragedy.
Well, they tie in later to Arthurian legend and myth as well. So in the games, anyway. I don't know if the TV series as well, but yeah, it's.
But the person who does their. Well, actually, it's very much a Greek it's very much something of a Greek tragedy where everyone's doing their best to try and avoid their destiny, but it all comes crashing in around them. Though it is a lot more obvious when it comes to the queen, to Queen Calanthe.
Yeah. Sorry, I just turned the volume down. I realized how loud this was, and
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have my earplug in, and obviously you're not getting any echo off this.
No, I'm not.
No, that's awesome. No, it's nice not having to use an earplug.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it is kind of interesting the way the story evolves, but I really like it. I find it it's very enticing, especially within the characters of Yennefer and Geralt. So their interactions throughout the show, each time they've met, and then the stuff that they've gone off and done separately, and how it tends to bring them back together, even when they don't want to be brought back together.
Yeah.
And then after they get brought back together, they usually end up back together.
Yeah. I mean,
one of them to bugger off on the other one.
or and it's not really a spoiler, but in the last episode where Yennefer runs into that other mage who hired Geralt in the episode with the with the Striga.
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck Geralt. Always popping up.
It's like that their destinies are completely intertwined and they cannot avoid each other. And they care so much for each other, but they also hate each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you make a wish.
Yeah. And they're both so heavily entrenched in the magic of the fantasy world.
Yeah.
It's
but
it's almost like that draws them together too. So I suppose it's being pushed as a tragedy that neither of them can have kids, but that's part of the thing. That's sort of that's their shared tragedy and their shared history. Even though he's a witcher and she's a sorceress, but there's that magical intertwinedness of their history and then the loneliness for them of being in those professions. I know there's the Council of Witches, of sorcerers and stuff like that, but they are a very lonely profession.
Yeah. And
as are the witches.
Another great comment from Danger Hissy.
You may as well hop in, Danger Hissy.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she wants to, but if you want Hissy, I'll toss you a link.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, because it's what, like 2 p.m. over in the UK. Or almost 3.
Yeah, they've got a decent time. Unlike you and I.
Yeah.
We went for dreadful times just to see everyone else.
Yeah.
Yes, Amiga Nuts, you do have to watch it. It is actually really worth watching. Just be aware that the non-linear time within the episodes, it can get really confusing. You have to be aware that there are a lot of jumps around in different times within the lives of both Yennefer and Geralt. So that their stories aren't exactly linear, but it does converge to a point by the end of the first series.
Well, like I said, it seems to me like each of the plot lines are linear, but they start off at different points in time.
Even series plot line is exactly the same. It's all over the place, and then it converges with that.
Well, yeah. The reason it's all over the place. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
You get better.
Is Math Pig still watching? Are you gonna hop in, Math Pig? I did send you a link.
Yeah. I think Math Pig said something about like having to do something and just listening. Yeah. Math Pig is. That's.
Oh, listeners, I can.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
But
it'd be nice if there were more than just us, especially people who've watched it.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it very much makes me want to read the books because you do get a sense that it is a very well built world, and explores a lot of good trope themes in a very interesting and very authentic feeling way, which which makes me want to read the book, which is, like I said at the beginning,
I don't know if I want to play the games, to be honest, but reading the books would be really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how well they actually translate, but
yeah, like I'll get a I'll read a translation of the books. I'm not going to learn Polish just to read The Witcher.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, it's one of those things that I when I knew it was coming out, I was like, this should be interesting. I mean, like I said, I'd seen the games, I'd heard about the books enough to know that they were pretty good, and it's like, yeah, I could really get into this. I mean, I have a similar feeling about they're supposedly going to be making a series of movies about the Tiffany Aching books from Terry Pratchett.
Oh, that should be interesting.
And I'm really looking forward to that. They haven't decided whether it'll be in movies or it's going to be a series, either on Netflix or one of the others.
Yeah.
It'll be produced by Rhianna Pratchett, so it'll be very, very set in with what her dad would have wanted. There was talk of Neil Gaiman actually directing if he's got time.
Wow.
So that would be insanely brilliant.
And if I remember right, Christopher Tolkien was heavily influenced in the first Lord of the Rings movies, not the Hobbit ones, but
yeah. So this would be a similar thing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Terry Pratchett's one of my favorite writers, full stop. And, And Tiffany Aching is just that one series that would, because it's a lot shorter than his main Discworld stuff, but it's still Discworld. It works really well as a set to go in there, and I reckon it could absolutely trounce Harry Potter.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why that's why I saw the family value stuff as a bit problematic, but wasn't too terribly fussed with it because I could see, I could kind of see the Catholic influence.
Yeah, it's there was very deep family-ish values in there, like giving up your fertility was a big issue, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Lots of women give up their fertility for lots of different reasons, and it's not necessarily a biggie. So that it takes a certain mindset and a certain way of being brought up to actually think that way.
Yeah.
But if you take that, you've also got to remember this is not set on Earth. This is an entirely different culture. Maybe it was a big issue within that culture.
Well, and the thing is, it's very much based off medieval. Medieval Europe. So you wanted to have kids if you were rich because you wanted heirs, and if you were poor, you wanted help on the farm.
But how does that work in a medieval type setting where you're a sorceress who can live for centuries?
Yeah,
and you're a witcher who can also live for centuries. Your kids may not live for centuries. You'd outlive your kids.
Well, if I remember right, the process that turns a person into a witcher actually makes them sterile.
Yeah, it does.
Because of all the mutations they have to go through.
Yes, it does. But if that wasn't the case, would they still want to have kids? If they're going to live that long, would they really want the kids? I love my girls, but I don't think I want to outlive them.
Yeah.
I dearly love it if we have the technology to integrate and build new bodies for ourselves when our current ones get decrepit enough. That'd be nice for us. But if that meant that I'm going to outlive everyone in my family, I might choose to have a time limit set for that so that I don't.
So that kind of reminds me of that scene in Fellowship of the Ring where Elrond is talking to his daughter, trying to talk his daughter out of
staying.
Yeah, out of marrying Aragorn, because he will die and then you'll just keep living. And you don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want to greatly outlive your children or wherever else. It's a heavy thing to carry in your heart, having death, and then we all encounter it throughout our lives. But if it's your children, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, well, that's very true. I think maybe in Yennefer's case, it is a bit of that. She wants something that she can't have because she's kind of selfish in a lot of her ways. So, so that's not outside the realms of her character that she wants something she can't have. And if you take it to its extreme on the other side, Geralt has something he doesn't want.
Yeah.
So
because Geralt's, you know what?
We've already spoiled this, but
I very much get the sense that Geralt's already outlived a fair amount of friends, and he's to the point where he doesn't want any kind of attachments because he knows they'll just die, and
which is why he was pushing the bard away to start off.
Yeah.
And even later on, he was still pushing him away when he thought there was a chance that he would die and Geralt would have to live on without him. He pushed him away rather than do that. So it's very much a case of that with Geralt, which is probably one thing that attracts him to Yennefer, because he knows Yennefer will be long-lived like him.
Yeah.
It makes her more attractive to him. Yeah, aside from the fact that she's supposedly the most attractive woman in the whole country.
Well,
That in the
she was the sculptor's finest work.
Yes, exactly.
Also, that scene where she goes sees the sculptor without anesthesia, that just proves how much of a badass she is.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he goes, "Oh, I don't have anything to calm the pain." She goes, "It doesn't matter."
Yeah,
we're not talking little amounts of pain. We are talking plastic surgery levels of pain.
Yeah, and once again, it actually once again that scene,
Roadie, nerdy rodent. You're gonna hop in, nerdy. Come on, say your bit about Tess. About Tess, sorry. Tess.
And that and that scene where it's that rebirth process is juxtaposed with the fight against the Striga.
Yeah.
Like I said, the amounts of pain involved in somewhat both cases very much, is a callback to childbirth, which enhances that theme of motherhood and rebirth and birth in that episode in specific.
Oh, and throughout the whole thing, really, there's always the things of pain, even when you come down to like the dragons.
Yeah, and
there are dragons.
Yeah, they're very rare, but they exist. Yeah. But and also that's another thing about how I like the way the series is specifically structured is that the themes explored throughout the series are very much in place throughout the series, but each theme kind of gets its own episode as a centerpiece.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always a price to pay. Well, that is a heavy theme within the show itself. Yes, there is always a price to pay.
And I mean that's also the way the way the magic system seems to be built.
Which to become a witcher, there's a lot
more realistic.
The sorceresses have a price to pay with every time they use magic, right down to the point of sorceresses casting fireballs and burning themselves up in the process.
Yeah, reserve chaos.
Yeah, like why would you do it? Why would you just give up your life just to cast a single fireball? What is the point in that?
Yeah, you know what they say: indoctrination is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah,
because remember, those were in the really, really culty army.
Yeah, they were. So yeah, well, they were probably in the position of once they joined the army, if they didn't do what they were asked to do, they were going to die anyway.
Yeah,
but I like it when it comes to why can't I remember her name? The sorceress who was sort of in charge of them all in the other army. And she goes to go and do one and just stops in the middle of it and hands off something else to somebody else to go and do. Like,
yeah.
It's like, yeah. You fucking wuss.
Yeah.
Happy to send other people to their death, but not yourself.
Well, she's the one in charge. Without her, it'll all fall apart.
Yeah. She's trying to... Yeah, I mean, you can see the type of character she is. She thinks she has some power, but her power is invested in her by somebody else, and it's going to burn her in the end. And I think that was symbolic of it when the fireballs, she didn't do it, but it was showing that in the end, this desire for power in her is going to burn her.
Well, and it seems to me that because of what Yennefer did, because Yennefer got her out of the cushy nepotism post.
Yeah.
Her ambition is, okay, fuck it. I'm gonna watch the world burn and put everyone under my puppet's heel.
Yeah. Whereas Yennefer just wants to get on in the world and be the best there is. It's a different type of egotism. Yennefer's is even though she's self-serving, she is actually more in tune with actually helping others in her sense of self-service.
Yeah.
which is a really strange way to be.
Yeah, or like when she goes back to the sorcerer's tower and she's talking with the girls.
Yeah,
it's very much the system has screwed me up. Don't be
don't be me.
I'm going to show you how to be better.
Yeah, which she would have been an absolutely awesome teacher.
Yeah.
because of that. In some senses, her character almost reminds me of Raistlin.
Nerdy.
Jennifer is a great man.
But yeah, seriously, she should just take over the but she should really just take over the the position of rectress at the tower, because she was great in that in that job.
But she also wants to be out in the world and finding all the sources of power. But mostly she's trying to find the sources of power to give her back the ability to have kids.
Which she just wants because she wants to feel unconditionally accepted.
Yeah, and she sees that as happening by having a child.
Yeah.
I think for a while she thought she could have had it from Geralt, but it was obviously not going to be the case.
Well, Geralt and the scholarly sorcerer that she had that tryst with.
Yeah.
But
yeah, she's a fascinating character, and I really like her. She's just quite likable, even in her rogueness.
Yeah.
She's the Han Solo of
Yeah. The Han Solo of The Witcher.
Yeah.
Without the being just a normal guy, sort of.
Yeah, because she's also a jet. She's a Jedi Han Solo.
Yeah. Wait, does that make her Kylo Ren?
Oh no! I still haven't seen
an emo.
I still have not seen the new movie.
Neither have I.
So
I only saw Force Awakens and Last Jedi. I don't think I'm gonna end up watching.
I am gonna watch it, but
well, I mean, I don't think I'll watch it until I don't think I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a Disney stream thing for me instead of watching it in the cinema. Mostly because I missed my opportunity to go with friends, and I'm not going to watch a movie on my own. Jennifer didn't cast it. Oh, well done, Nerdy.
I'm just going to leave that up there for a bit because everyone needs to appreciate that.
That is brilliant.
Well done, Nerdy. But yeah, though, on adaptations that are coming out that I'm interested in seeing, since we're kind of moving on to movies.
Moving on to other things, yes.
I'm kind of intrigued by the Doolittle movie.
Yeah, I am too, but they're doing it. The original idea.
Yeah. But
you're playing with your beard, I'm playing with a peg.
Yeah. But I like how it seems to be, a lot closer to what the books were about, that mention that that kind of source of whimsy that that's very present in the Dr. Dolittle storybooks.
My only problem with it, and it's something similar that I have with the last time they did a Dr. Dolittle movie is that in the original story he spends years studying.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one reason why I'm not completely on board.
Yeah,
They seem to be going with the "it's a power" route instead.
Yeah, and if you want to do a story about somebody who got a special power to talk to the animals, why don't you make a live action movie of what was the thing that was a sort of a spin-off from Rugrats?
Wild Thornberries.
Wild
And
Thornberries.
I don't think it was actually a spin-off. I think
No, it was done by the same thing, but they joined their worlds together. So.
Yeah, they did a crossover movie thing.
Yeah. And they talked about each one. Well, they talked about Wild Thornberries before they did the crossover movie, actually in Rugrats. So they referenced Nigel Thornberry.
Yeah.
So they could have done a live action version of that and had somebody talking to the animals, and people loved it. So I
very like that's one of the things that I like about the books and also the Rex Harrison musical.
Yeah,
is that that's a thing that he studied, and it's
something nobody else did. He figured out the animals' languages.
Yeah, he doesn't have a special power. He's just like the best naturalist in the world.
Yeah.
He's like the Sherlock Holmes of zoology.
Yeah, which I can get more into than the idea of it's a super magical power.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start introducing a super magical power into a universe, then everything's open for a super magical power.
Yeah. And another one that looks interesting to me, mostly because of the casting and is the Color Out of Space. Because they cast Nicolas Cage in the lead role, and I don't know. It seems to me that Nicolas Cage and H.P. Lovecraft would go together like peanut butter and jelly.
If you're gonna do Lovecraft, why can't we have a proper Cthulhu movie?
Yeah. Well, I think I think I read something about the Color Out of Space being like the first in like kind of like a Lovecraft trilogy.
Oh, okay. So we might get a proper.
Yeah, we might. Also, there's been talks about Guillermo del Toro doing The Mountains of Madness.
The original movie of that was actually really good.
But from what I've seen, it's kind of stuck in development hell. So who knows if that ever gets?
Oh yeah, which
kind of knows if it ever happens.
Yeah, yeah. Lovecraftian stuff is awesome. There's so much of our fantasy worlds that revolve around the Lovecraftian and Tolkien-esque storytelling.
Like the Elithids are basically a straight up homage to Lovecraft. A lot of the creepier D&D stuff was either Gygax really hated his players and wanted to just murder them, i.e. the Beholders, or like, homages to Lovecraft, like the Yuan-ti and the Abelis. Not exactly lifted from Lovecraft, but more like
modeled after.
Modeled after Lovecraft.
And very much the same with Tolkien stuff. Modeled after what Tolkien wrote.
Yeah.
I know that has its roots in mythology and everything, but...
Well, yeah, so, the thing is...
D&D's expanded from that.
And, the thing is, Tolkien, went to... Tolkien's like, Britain doesn't have its own epic mythos, so I'm going to write it. And what he ended up doing was setting the bedrock for the Western canon of fantasy.
Yeah. I'd go so far as to say that Nicolas Cage is a Lovecraftian nightmare. But one movie in it that he was absolutely stunning in.
He was pretty good in Raising Arizona.
Okay, yes, no, I'll probably agree with you on that.
And I actually did like the National Treasure movies. He was good in those.
Yeah, but I mean, when he's actually gone to do straight out action movies, he fails miserably at them.
Well, yeah, but you know, this is
so
him doing a surreal horror. You know, talking.
Yeah, it would just be weird.
Color out of space, like even if like the writing and the directing don't pan out, watching Nicolas Cage ranting about Lovecraftian horrors is going to be worth the price of a ticket, anyways.
Yeah, but you really want to see more of them made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but the thing is, as far as I'm aware, pretty much all of Lovecraft's stuff is public domain, which means
Lost in Space featuring Nicolas Cage. Nerdy.
Was being polite / British for a moment.
Like my dad was British. He's an expat, of course, because I was born in Australia, and yeah, I understand British politeness. It's not always polite. It just comes across that it could be polite if you weren't paying enough attention.
Yeah.
I know Australian politeness, and that means you be as blunt as a fucking hammer.
Well, yeah, from my interaction with you Aussies on Twitter and various streams, it seems like Australian politeness is a lot like Yorkshire politeness.
Yeah. Or Irish politeness.
Yeah. Which is, British politeness when you don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's basic. Well, Scottish and Irish is very similar. So, but there were a lot of Scottish and Irish immigrants to Australia in the early days. So a lot of our culture actually stems from them. It's why we're so good at drinking. So yeah, well,
and I think it seems to me that that immigrants would be somewhat of a generous term.
Then the next one, right, Danger Hissy. That is so true. Call a spade and hit the fuckers with it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's why I get rude at people well, not rude at, but it's why I quite often end up swearing at people when I do. Although I've gotten better, I don't call them assholes all the way through making my videos now.
Yeah. Oh
but
man.
There's usually one point in it when I'm even doing the PragerU one that's coming out tomorrow, I still swear at him. It's like, oh I can't.
Yeah, in the video that I've finished, that I'm going to be uploading and having a premiere on Tuesday as usual, I actually tell the person I'm responding to go fuck himself.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. I think I said fuck off, and when you finish fucking off, fuck off again.
And that's an interesting topic to kind of close out on. What book would you like to what's your ideal adaptation, from book to screen?
Well, the one I'm really looking forward, I've already mentioned. I'm really looking
or that you would really want to see.
I'd really want to see the Tiffany Aching, as long as it's done by Rhianna Pratchett, and it doesn't matter whether Neil Gaiman directs it, but if Rhianna Pratchett is producing, we know it's going to sit close and it's going to be good. And I mean, the other projects she's been involved with where they've converted Pratchett stuff to television was really, really good. So I don't see any reason why this wouldn't end up being a good production. Otherwise, books that I've read that I'd like to see converted. Now you got me thinking. What have I read recently what have I read that I really, really like? I read too many scientific journals and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a set of books that I started reading, and I can't remember the name of the author, but it's called I'll look it up. That's the best way to do it.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
One, I'd like to see. Yeah, one, I'd like to see a proper adaptation of the Jungle Book. Like,
oh yes,
really goes in. That really goes into it. That's at least a hard PG-13, and that actually touches on the second half of the book. But I'd also like to see specifically, I'd think it'd be best if it were done as a Pixar short film, but an adaptation of There Will Come Soft Rains by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
That story about the house. I think Pixar would be perfect to just like completely destroy your feels as you watch that. That's what that story is about. That's what that story is supposed to do. Is just completely destroy your emotions.
I just found out that I'm naked in the chat. I couldn't post the link I was going to post.
Toss something in the chat and I'll give you a wrench.
Sweet. There we go.
Yeah,
the book I'm talking about is called Sorcerer to the Crown, and it's written by Zen Cho. It's an absolutely brilliant book. I just found it in a bookstore, and I read the back of it and I go, oh, that sounds really good. And I bought it and read it. I read it in one night. It was so good. And me reading a book in one night is actually hard because I'm dyslexic. So, there's the link to the book anyway. If people want to read about it. It's funny being dyslexic and reading books because there have been times I've read books. My dyslexia has made me read the words differently to how they were actually written on the page, which has changed the entire context of the chapter I've just read. And I'll get to the next chapter and I go, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell? So I've had to go back and reread the previous chapter to figure out what I read wrong the first time so that I know. So it can take me a while to read a book sometimes. It's not so bad if I'm reading scientific papers because I can get them in order in my head because I know enough about the stuff that I tend to put it back where it's supposed to put things in the right thing. But if I'm reading fiction, I tend to do this.
Yeah.
So it takes me a bit longer than normal to read through a book. But I read this book in one night because I liked it so much. I've tried audiobooks, but I fall asleep listening to audiobooks.
I'd also really like to see Out of the Silent Planet adapted as a live action film.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna go ahead and call that a stream. So go ahead and shill yourself again.
All right. Go follow me on Twitter at Jenzel Corner. Hang on a second. I will post a link because I'm organized, not.
Yeah, and I'll drop a link in the description after we're done. I forgot to do that last night because
follow me on Twitter. Did we forget that last night?
Yeah.
On Jay's, we did. I think Jay's put them in now, though.
No, I'm talking about in the description of this stream because because I forgot because I just threw it together before I went to bed.
Well, you're organized, aren't you?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Because I was kind of thinking that I'd have like a week to set, at least a few days to set this up, but then we're like, oh. Let's do it in 12
hours. And that's my YouTube channel. If people want to go and follow me on there. It's all really good. I've got a new video premiering. That stupid hour in the morning for me, but in the evening for you guys, it'll be
Yeah.
at 4:45, I think it is, in the evening for you guys, and 4:45 in the afternoon for you guys. It'll be premiering, and that's about PragerU and talking about aliens, but you probably get that if you look at my thumbnail, which I'm quite proud of.
And I need to put my thumbnail together for my video that I'm going to be premiering, Tuesday sometime probably around 1:30, maybe 2ish in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I'm responding to someone who's claiming that atheists can't have a moral system because they don't have stories.
But we'd have stories. What about Robin Hood and King Arthur and
about how and also about how if you have stories that you pull morals from, then you'll just have another religion.
Yeah, that's right.
And
you can learn things from stories without having to have a religion.
Oh yeah, and you can you can learn things from stories without having to pull specific morals out. Like, for instance, we were just taught, we just spent an hour discussing the themes found in The Witcher.
Yeah. Who was it who put out a video recently about how they're quick to... Oh, it was Pelagia, who was talking about something that...
Oh, yeah, the
parables, and these things are really parables. They're not...
he's taught... the video about how the puddle analogy is really a parable.
Oh yeah, it's a parable. It's not an analogy. So
yeah,
I also have a video on the puddle analogy where I take a slightly different tack to all about it. I don't actually see the puddle analogy as being something that should be used as evidence for or against a god. It's more as an analogy to highlight our inability to sometimes see things from the correct perspective because we're stuck in a particular position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for some people, I think Harry Potter probably is a religion. Certainly, J.K. Rowling thinks she's some sort of fucking prophet. Oh, did I say that?
So would that make her a daily prophet?
Oh. Well said. I'm one of these people, even though I don't like J.K. Rowling as a person, you shouldn't condemn her work based on the fact that she's not a nice person.
Oh, yeah.
I've always found that to be a bit abhorrent. Oh, I don't like this person, so let's condemn their work. Or this person's done something wrong, so let's burn their work. No. The art can stand separate from the person. A person's bad moral choices, etc., don't necessarily make the work that they created bad.
And even if the art is problematic in and of itself, like for instance, a lot of what about
Mein Kampf?
Well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say a lot of Heinlein stuff can get kind of yucky. And I still read Heinlein if I get in the mood for it, because it's some real, it's really well written pulp sci-fi. But yeah, there are a lot of yikesy themes in there, especially like the incest and the pedophilia.
What about the illustrious author of Dianetics?
Yeah.
You've got that sort of thing, but that shouldn't distract from their other work. The fact that they did something abhorrent doesn't distract from their other things. I feel strongly about that, even when you're talking about people like the comedian dude who wasn't particularly nice to women.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby. He's moralistically he's abhorrent. Well, allegedly, I will go with allegedly. He hasn't been convicted of anything. But his work is still funny. And there were other people involved in the production of that. It shouldn't all just be condemned just because he might be abhorrent. The same goes with, I think I've said, use this example in a stream before, Rolf Harris. And if you don't know who it is, but the Pom's in the chat will. He's an Australian, I think he's still alive. He's an Australian entertainer, and he got picked up by Project U-Tree, which was an investigation into child molestation within the or various forms of mad sexual conduct within the entertainment industry, and he got picked out with that a few years ago in the UK, and he's been prosecuted since, and he's gone to jail and everything. Now, he's an Australian, but an expat, so he lives over there, and he lives in prison over there in the UK. But there was a hardware store in one of the suburbs north of where I live, where he grew up, and he painted a mural on the wall of this hardware store. Now, as soon as he was picked up by U-Tree, before he'd gone to court, before it was proven in a court of law that he was guilty, this hardware store painted over the artwork that he painted on the wall. And I find that absolutely despicable. If you wanted to cover up, there's lots of other ways you could have covered it up without destroying the artwork. And you're talking about somebody who's known as being an artist.
Yeah.
Why would you destroy it? This goes back to burning books.
Well, I mean, in the case of the hardware store, I can kind of see why they did it, because they didn't want to, they didn't want a boycott on their hands. Probably.
Yeah.
That could be more of, okay, there's backlash, we need to protect.
Cover it. I mean, it's a painting on a wall. You could cover it with a curtain or whatever else, just so that people can't see it until afterwards. And then maybe at some point you might decide, well, no, maybe I can't have this here. We're going to have to paint over it, redecorate and paint over. Okay, that's fine. But no, this was before he was even convicted. I'm like, no, just no.
But yeah, and I grew up in a very sheltered, Christian household, and basically half to 75% of my channel is just me railing against the evangelical culture of censorship. And, it's basically me railing against censorship and propaganda.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of censorship, even for people who are abhorrent. Having said that, I have reported people on Twitter, but I don't report them for their views. I report them if they attack individuals.
Yeah.
If you're attacking individuals, you are fair game. If you are stating an abhorrent point of view, well, that's different, but you deserve to be shut on from a great height.
Yeah. But
that's different. That's just people with opposing point of views. Although Twitter's not a good place to shut on people from a great height, because most of the people who will do the horrible thing in the first place are likely to turn around and ban you if you try to get back at them.
Yeah.
So,
but like the only censorship-y kind of thing that I can really get on board with, like the closest thing to to controlling media that I can kind of see the argument for is like age restrictions.
I'm fine with age restrictions.
And that is just, as long as you select, as long as it's basically, I like the rating system because it's basically kind of a, it's kind of a trigger warning, essentially.
Although the rating system more covers the language than it does for nudity.
Oh yeah.
So it's a bit arse about, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the concept is good. The execution is terrible. That being said, The Witcher definitely earned its TVMA rating.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, with all the realistic violence, like it's.
We're talking about ratings now. Are you a little disappointed that Disney has backed away from the concept of doing a truly horror version of Doctor Strange?
Yeah, I haven't really read into that. I just kind of
They've come out and
yeah, I
said
just kind of
definitely
saw
the movie
the
will
headlines.
we will have
And
horror elements, but it will not be a horror movie.
and I find that to be very much a cowardly move. I mean, that Disney's trying to protect their image as a family friendly thing.
I don't know if it's about
Marvel is pushing out at least 2 movies a year.
yeah, they're not losing any
Mix
market.
it up. You can slap a hard PG-13 or an R-rated movie in there to go along with to spice things up, especially since you broke things off with Netflix where
We had the hard stuff.
and Netflix was pretty much the only place where we were getting darker themed Marvel stuff, like with the Punisher and Jones, which I season 2 of.
And the bit that really worries me about this is if they're going to do that with something that they were talking about making a horror style flick. I mean, the director's actually walked away from doing the movie now.
Yeah.
Like the decision, and I can't remember what his name is, but he's the same guy who directed Freddy Krueger.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's who was going to be doing it. So yeah, that was the style it was going to be, and he's just walked away from it. Because they originally promised that he'd be able to do the movie that he wanted to do, so it would have been a very gothic horror sort of take on it.
And growing up, I wouldn't have been allowed to watch Doctor Strange, but it's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies.
But yeah, I don't see the problem with it being that. But the thing that really concerns me about that is, what does this mean for the future of
you muted yourself, I think. Yeah, I can't hear you. You're it's saying that your mic's not connected. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I had to unplug and replug in the USB port. It occasionally does. My USB hub's a bit dicky, and it keeps doing this to me. Not all the time, but every now and then it's a bit annoying. I can reach I've got an extension plug up on the desk, so I can easily.
And the reason, with the MCU,
what is the name of the character?
The Grimdark DC, because they felt that they had to differentiate themselves, and they took characters that weren't supposed to be Grimdark and made them Grimdark.
Yeah.
Cough, Superman cough.
Yeah. The character I'm thinking of, the Reynolds plays him. Deadpool.
Oh, yeah.
He has been really concerned for what's going to happen with Deadpool, because Deadpool needs to be an R-rated movie. I'm sorry, Disney. He has to stay R-rated.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work if you try and change that. And I could see Disney trying to put pressure onto Sony to have a more G-rated Venom as well, especially if we're going to end up with crossovers with Spidey again. So
I don't know, because it seems like Sony is trying to make Venom their own thing. Their own.
They're definitely going to put Spidey in the Venom universe.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's already been stated. It's going to be done it's going to be like a Into the Spider-Verse sort of thing, where Spidey's, I believe, is going to be hopping universes to do it. So he ends up in Venom's own universe, and then or they might go with the Miles version of the character rather than the MCU version of it, just so that
I can see them doing that, especially with how popular Tom Holland is.
I don't think they will. I think they'll do the universe hopping for Tom. They'll have something that causes him to hop universes, and then he's got to get back, and he'll have Venom's help for it or something. So it'll probably start out as a Venom Spidey fight movie, and then Venom and Spidey being frenemies at the end of it, sort of movie, which kind of fits with the way the character developments went anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, the only reason Spidey isn't friends with Venom is because Venom's pissy with Spider-Man for getting rid of him as as the host, which of course won't actually occur in the movies.
Yeah.
Because that's already...
Yeah, the symbiote's a pissy, possessive ex, and Eddie Brock just hated Peter Parker because he blamed
none of that can be
career because he was being a shitty journalist.
The only thing they're going to have in the storyline is Parker not being happy about Venom killing people.
Yeah, but I think we'll call that.
Yeah, I think we can call that a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Hissy.
Yeah. So
I love my Deadpool.
We'll leave that comment up while we do our end of stream taglines.
Oh, please be really careful, guys, and don't choke on the selfie stick.
And remember, indoctrination is a hell of a drug.